Who's Kaiser Soze?
There is no Kaiser Soze.
You're quite hostile.
I got a right to be hostile.
Who is the greatest mixed martial artist in history? Who is the greatest mixed martial artist in history? Now, I'm telling you this because my opinion is all that matters. And when it comes down to the martial arts, it is my opinion, and it's the right opinion, that anyone who does not agree with me is wrong. So, I'm going to give you who I think is the greatest mixed martial artist in history, and because I am who I am, of course I have to explain it, right? Because you people are going to go, oh, you know, some of you are going to agree, right? But whenever I do something, because of this, you know, I have to like write a book to explain, you know, why I say what I say, all right? So I'm going to give you some names, and I'm going to give you who I think is the greatest mixed martial artist in history, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, it is clear now that some of the greatest mixed martial arts of all time are black, right? And this is why I'm so pissed off at black folks for not supporting mixed martial arts. You don't have to buy UFC, but buy the guys' t-shirts, you know what I mean? Support the guys, right? Because they're still underpaid by Dana White and the UFC, right? They're still underpaid for the risk they take. So buy their t-shirt from their website. But fact of the matter is that some of the greatest mixed martial artists are black. We have D.Johnson, we have Daniel Cormier, we have John Jones. Yes, John Jones, in spite of the fact I don't care for him much in the PED issue, he was considered one of the best, greatest fighters of all time long before the PED issue. We forget that. We have Silva, the same thing. He was considered one of the greatest fighters of all time before the PED issue. And then we have, yes, Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley, that man who was everything in mixed martial arts that Floyd Mayweather was never in boxing. Right? So now we have D.Johnson, Daniel Cormier, we have Silva, we have John Jones, and we have Tyron Woodley, right? 5 of the greatest mixed martial artists, not just pound for pound, but in history, are black. 5 of the top 10. That's great. We have them. And then we have Conor McGregor. Now, there are a lot of people say, oh, well, you know what, why does this guy like Conor McGregor? But he's talking about white, black, this, and this. It's because I'm not a racist. I talk against racists who try to act like they're not racist, all right? But Conor McGregor, hey, that's my dude, right? So we have Conor McGregor. We have these guys, right? And they're some of the all-time greatest. However, I'm going to point out who I think is the greatest MMA fighter of all time and why. Now, before I start, I want to say this. I have my little cheat sheets here, right? And it's the cheat sheets. Whenever you see me in front of my laptop, I'm working on a book. I'm working on a book on racial trauma, right, upon the brain, right, and what people go through living in a racist country and how it affects their lives. So sometimes I will come to the school and I'm working on a book here. So I'm never getting my information from Wikipedia or anything, all right? So I'm not doing that. Don't need that. I talk off the top of my head just from knowledge, okay? What I'm going to do when I talk about this, though, I'm going to tell you, break down why this person is the greatest mixed martial artist in history, and I'm going to give you like 4 different reasons why. But before I do that, I want to say there's one thing that we really should not consider too much, all right? It's overrated, and that is who beats who, right? Who beats who? We should not be so concerned with who beats who. There are times where a person will have someone's number. Antonio Tarver had the number of Roy Jones Jr. Can we say that Antonio Tarver was a better fighter than Roy Jones? No. So who can beat who on any given day is not something that we should use as a major criteria. The thing that we do not give a lot of credit to, and we should give more credit to, is pioneer. Who's a pioneer, right? Who came first? We should give credit to that, right? So, who beat who? Let's not put too much credit into that. Being a pioneer, let's bring more credit into that. Who was first? Now, in my opinion, the greatest MMA fighter that ever lived is none other than George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre is the greatest mixed martial artist who ever lived. So I'm going to break down why, and I'm going to break it down fairly quickly. Hands. Many people want to say that boxing is the same as striking with the hands. It's not. Boxing and striking with the hands in MMA are not the same thing. Why? Well, because boxing, the hands are used to set up other punches. Punches are used to set up other punches, right? When you're talking about striking in mixed martial arts, punches are used to set up kicks, punches are used to set up takedowns, punches are used to set up clinch entries, punches are used to set up elbows, punches are used to set up other punches, right? So, striking with the hands in mixed martial arts is not the same as striking with the hands, or is not the same as boxing. George St. Pierre has some of the most functional hands that perfectly set up his takedowns, perfectly set up his kicks, perfectly set up his clinch entries, seamlessly. He has, without a doubt, one of the best hand systems of all time in mixed martial arts. That's hands. Kicks. George St. Pierre, his kicks was one of the first people, he's one of the first people to do the straight back kick. And do the straight back kick in such a way that if it didn't hit the target, the belly, or it didn't hit the chest, it at least, or didn't hit the liver, he threw it in such a way that it would at least push his opponent back, where he could get back into a position to continue his offense. His kicking. If you look at his roundhouse kick was nothing short of brilliant. We're talking about a roundhouse kick that he could knock you out with to the head. He could throw that roundhouse kick to the liver and buckle you with that. He also could throw a beautiful leg kick, but he also mastered the roundhouse kick in the form of throwing a check roundhouse kick. A kick that was just meant to knock you slightly off balance, or kind of spin you into his punch, or spin you into a takedown. The brilliance of George St. Pierre's kicks is still, in my estimation, underrated. Next, George St. Pierre's wrestling. There are people, once again, who talk about, oh, he wasn't a wrestler. Look, idiot. That's right, you, the idiot, who says, oh, he's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. No, he's not. He's wrestling. He wrestled with the Olympic Canadian wrestling team. He's a wrestler, okay? Forget Wikipedia. Stop getting your information from Wikipedia, right? You're Wikipedia scholars, right? And you're morons for thinking that you know more than me, a real martial artist who started training when he was 9 and is now 47 years old. For 48 years, you think Wikipedia can override what I say, and I've done it? Fact of the matter is, look at what George St. Pierre is doing. Look, moron, and you will see what he's doing is wrestling. If someone gets a submission and they are wrestling, the reason they get the submission, idiot, is because they use wrestling to tire the person out so much, to batter the person to such a degree that they are vulnerable to the submission. Let me repeat that again, morons, okay? Let me repeat that again. And of course, you people who agree with me, you're intelligent, you're not morons. But those people who don't agree with me, you are freaking idiots, right? Now, look at George St. Pierre. When you see someone finally get a rear naked choke, don't say that the reason they got that rear naked choke is because they're Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialists. If a wrestler knocks someone to the ground, and they ground and pound them, and they bloody them and ride them to the point where they tire the person out, and then they get a rear naked choke, they are not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialists. They are wrestling specialists who know some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu submissions, idiot. So, now, George St. Pierre, his wrestling, second to none. Second to none, right? The person who I think is second to him, the biggest problem with the person who is second to him is there's too much space between him and his opponent when he is grounded and pounded. Right? When he's using ground and pound. George St. Pierre's pressure riding, his wrestling pressure riding, is second to none. D.Johnson is the one who was second in his perfect blend of mixed martial arts to George St. Pierre, Demetrius Johnson, right? Now, if we look at Demetrius Johnson, great ground and pound, but George St. Pierre just has that pressure riding. His pressure riding is greater than Demetrius Johnson's, and it is greater than any other mixed martial artist in history. His wrestling is tremendous. His takedowns, his beautiful fusion of striking into his takedowns is the greatest. Lastly, you have mix and you have blend. You have mixed martial artists. Everybody does mixed martial arts. Steven, mixed martial arts. Steve, Wonder Boy Thompson does mixed martial arts. But the blend is different. You can put two things together, right? And you can mix them together. That just means they're together. They're not standing on their own. But when you blend something, right, you have a unique taste. You have a unique smell. George St. Pierre is not a mixed martial artist. He's a blended martial artist. His way of blending, striking with the hands to takedowns, to clinch, or takedown, striking with the hands to clinch, to takedowns, to submissions, is second to none. I'm using this second to none ad nauseum, right? But his blend, he has a perfect mix. Perfect mix that is a blend, not merely a mix, but a blend. It is seamless. And when I say seamless, we're talking about him and DJ. When we're talking about the most seamless MMA fighters, when I say seamless, I mean things are working to such a fine degree. His techniques and his ranges are so well honed and so well put together that it's extremely hard to defend against his attacks, and it's extremely hard to counter him when he is in motion. That's what I mean about seamless. It's like putting these blocks together so tightly that not even a razor blade can fit through the cracks. That's what I'm talking about. This blend that George St. Pierre has. So George St. Pierre is the greatest MMA fighter in history. And the reason is because his hands, the most beautiful functioning striking with his hands I've ever seen. Right? Sets up all his other attacks beautifully. His kicks, pioneer of 4 different ways of using his roundhouse kick. His wrestling, Olympic style wrestling, Division I title grade wrestling, pressure riding, extraordinary. Right? His mix, some people do mixed martial arts, some people blend their martial arts. He has a perfect blend of martial arts. Of his ranges and what have you. He is the greatest of all time. Second, I would say the best in his seam is DJ. Now, lastly, before I hit this off, Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley, is he one of the greatest of all time? Yes. Is he the greatest welterweight of all time? I don't believe he's the greatest welterweight of all time. Certainly not currently. Now, would he be? He's one of them. He may be even 2 to George St. Pierre. Now, would he be able to beat George St. Pierre? Yes, I believe he would. Out of 3 fights with George St. Pierre, would he be able to possibly beat George St. Pierre 2 out of 3? Yes. Why? Matt Serra. George St. Pierre had some issues, yes. I think his mother died, his grandmother died, and he was hurt by it. Matt Serra did drop him. Tyron Woodley is one fighter who can drop you with one punch, without a doubt. His wrestling is not just as good as George St. Pierre's, but it's close enough to be a major problem for George St. Pierre. So in both of their primes, could Tyron beat him 1 out of 3 times? Almost definitely. Could he beat him 2 out of 3 times? Quite likely. Is he the better fighter than George St. Pierre? Not yet. Okay? So there you go. George St. Pierre is the greatest MMA fighter of all time, and I gave you the reasons. My opinion is the one that counts. If you don't agree with me, it's because you're an idiot, moron, and you shouldn't be on YouTube. This is the Walking Encyclopedia. Save Carmen. See you next video.